We are the Reds Down Under, and this is our podcast.
This is countdown to kick off, the first episode being released as its individual pod. The Reds and Arnie Slot head back to Anfield to face Manchester City. Tom, we always mark this fixture in our calendar. You must be looking forward to it.
Man City's one of them games, mate, where the jeopardy is normally so high. Liverpool against Manchester City, especially in the Klopp years and the Guardiola years there. But it's a big game. It's a massive game for Liverpool, and Manchester City need to win the game if they're going to try and stay in touch with Arsenal. So it's going to be a banger of a game, mate. It normally is against City, isn't it?
Certainly is. Apart from the kick-off time, we'll amend that. We'll put that aside, but anything for the Reds. But, mate, let's talk on team news because the Reds picked up back-to-back wins last week in both the Champions League and the Premier League. But this season, and Slot spoke about it throughout majority of the season, is the injury crisis we face. So a little bit of an update. So Joe Gomez could be in the fray to return, but Jeremy Frimpong is out. So you'd assume Szoboszlai goes to right back, mate. And the question I sort of pose to you is, if Szoboszlai does, is he in for a tough day with the likes of Doku, Semenyo running at him non-stop?
Yeah, it was interesting to see the manager's press conference, wasn't it? It was nice. It was nice to get out of the press conference with answers more than more questions, because it's been like that in recent weeks, hasn't it? Yeah, I think Szoboszlai will play at right back. I've got no doubt about that. And Doku is a very, very dangerous player. I expect Doku to play on the left and Semenyo on the right. So our fullbacks are going to have their hands full. But you know, the thing is about Szoboszlai is he's obviously very good on the ball, but he doesn't just sort of cover ground, does he? He claims it, and when he's played there at right back, he's done really well against wingers. So I'm not concerned about Szoboszlai coming up against Doku, but I think, especially if City try and overload on that left side, we'll maybe need Mo to come back in and support a little bit more in defence. But I think it's definitely an area of the pitch, mate, where City will look to try and hurt us.
Well, that's a perfect segue, isn't it, to the visitors themselves. Manchester City, they're coming off the back of 2-0 win against Galatasaray, then a 2-2 draw at the weekend in the Premier League against Spurs. Probably not the result they were after there. But midweek, they pick themselves up. They go through to the Carabao Cup final with Arsenal. Mate, they've had a really tricky run of late. Do you think that could play into the hands? You know, they've played so much football. We've had a week off. Do you think that could potentially play into the hands of this one?
I think sometimes going into City games, there is a fear element of going into the game. Like, I'm always really excited for it. I think that, Man City need to go in and try and win the football match, no doubt. But yeah, they've had some tricky games in recent weeks. And you could see that game against Spurs last weekend. I mean, Solanke, let's be honest, scored an absolutely gorgeous sort of scorpion kick, didn't he? But look, I think Liverpool can get at Manchester City. I think Liverpool need to have a go at them, and we've shown in the last 2 games, we've scored 10 goals in 2 games. And I look at Manchester City's backline, and they look vulnerable to me. I know Mark Gahey has come in, and he's obviously a very, very good footballer, and I think maybe Liverpool will link with him at some point. But yeah, look, I think his defensive partner, whoever that is, it might even be Nathan Ake. I think Liverpool have got to be looking to hurt them, mate, and I think that's why I expect such a big game for Hugo Ekitike. I think he can have a lot of joy against them centre-backs.
Well, we'll get into our predictions later about our score predictions, but you touched on it. Liverpool, 10 goals in the last 2 games, but to the visitors, they always pose a threat, especially in attack. We've seen them in recent weeks. Like, they've played a lot of football, don't go hide away from that fact, but they've played 2 up top at times with Haaland and Semenyo, but this week we were speaking midweek and you think they might go back to that 3 up top with Semenyo and Doku out wide. Is that the danger areas where you think Liverpool might be a bit exposed? Is that wide areas for City?
Yeah, for me, the wide areas could be a key attacking position for Manchester City. And I know they've played 2 up top recently, and they could, if they wanted to, they could go with Haaland and Mamouche, who's been in excellent form himself since the African Cup of Nations. I think that what Liverpool have done really well in recent times against Haaland is they've turned him into, a 6'4" spectator, and that's essentially the part that he's played in games. Kanate and Van Dijk have done really well. But I do imagine that they'll go with one up front, which obviously would be Haaland and Semenyo on the right and Doku on the left. I think the reason that they would do that rather than playing two up top is the midfield is such a key position in this football match. The games between Liverpool and Manchester City are often games of chess, and I love chess. I think sometimes, one tactic that players have in chess is that they try and eliminate the other player's queen, their strongest piece. And I think Liverpool will do well in the game not to over-focus on Erling Haaland and try and let the centre-backs deal with him as much as possible. And I think the area in which Liverpool can try and get back at City and win the game is attacking their weakest pieces, their pawns. And, if you look across the back line for Manchester City, I think they can all be got at, maybe bar Gahey. So I think Manchester City will go three in midfield, but I still think Liverpool's is a far superior midfield, and I think that's where we'll dominate the game.
Well, you spoke there about a man who's going to pose a huge threat to Liverpool, but he hasn't done so in recent times, and that's Erling Haaland. Look, mate, he's, I think, just over 3 seasons now into the Premier League with Manchester City, and Anfield itself is the only ground that he hasn't scored at in the Premier League wearing the Manchester City badge. Are we expecting another tight battle here between himself and Virgil van Dijk? Because, like you touched on there, our defences seem to always get the better of him.
It's hard to say, isn't it, with Haaland? He's such a fantastic footballer, and when Manchester City signed him and he started scoring a bag full of goals, there was a lot of people who criticised him just because he scored goals, and that's his job. Alisson Becker stops goals, and we don't criticise him for the other stuff that comes in the game. And look, as I say, I think that the defensive structure with Kanate, Van Dijk, and the two boys in front of him, which I would expect to be McAllister and Gravenberch, create like a little box, don't they, themselves? So there's always 4 players in that area. So whether Haaland drops deep or tries to go beyond, I think there'll be a Liverpool player in that area. And yeah, as I say, if we can keep him quiet, then anything's possible.
That was exactly what I was going to say. If we can keep Haaland quiet, it will go a long way to winning the football match. But in terms of saying that, they do have other threats in attack. Well, let's flip the script, to our team, the Reds. Man City have not defeated Liverpool at Anfield since 2021, and that was COVID days. But mate, we've spent so much of this time talking about City. Liverpool shown glimpses of promise last week. 10 goals, like you said, in 2 games, in both against Karabag and Newcastle. Do you think that confidence can give the Reds a spark? And how do you think they can break down City? Is it mainly an attack?
Well, I think that what the 2 games have shown is, you talk about flipping the script, and I think the last 2 games have flipped the script for Liverpool, because I think so many times this season we've played quite well in games and not been able to score. I think there's been plenty of examples of that, and then you get a defensive error or something like that, and before a set piece normally, and the game's gone. But Liverpool annihilated Karabag. Let's be honest, we were fantastic, and even though Newcastle were brilliant in the first 20 minutes the other day, we just completely overwrought them in attack. And if you look at someone like Florian Wirtz, he's like a vampire in a blackout. He's just looking for a neck to bite. He just roams around the pitch looking for the best places to get at City. And I think that midfield will be key. I think if Wirtz gets the better of Rodri in the game, I think Liverpool go and win the football match, because as soon as you get beyond that layer of Manchester City, you're looking at a very vulnerable backline, and Ekitike is just an absolute engine, isn't he? And if Liverpool can spring the ball in behind for him as much as possible, I can see goals up that end of the pitch, but I think it's going to be tight, mate. I think it's going to be really tight, and we've got to take our moments.
It's going to be very tight. I like how you mentioned there once we break that midfield line, the importance of then Verts, Ekatike trying to potentially find each other, because that has gone a long way in the last few weeks, hasn't it, to winning us football matches. Those two have combined really well. So we've got some questions or predictions from the viewers that we'll get to in a second. But a segment here on Countdown to Kickoff is one bold call where we give a take throughout the match, whether it could be Virgil van Dijk scores a hat-trick, it could be no goals in the second half, you name it. Tom, I'm going for only one goal will be scored in this match. Obviously, you know who to. What's your one bold call for this week?
Well, I think my bold call last week was that there'd be a red card against Newcastle, and there was a moment there I thought Anthony Gordon was going to get a second yellow card. And I thought, I can jump into countdown to kick-off, buzzing a little bit. But a player who we haven't mentioned so far on countdown to kick-off is Mo Salah, and, you know, he normally steps up for the big games, the big moments. He likes scoring against Manchester City. And we've just seen glimpses, haven't we, in recent weeks that Mo's feeling a little bit more like himself. So I'm going to say Mo Salah will score a penalty. That's my big call.
Salah score a penalty. I think that'll be his first goal since he's come back from the AFCON as well. So keep your eyes out for that one. Hopefully we're a bit more successful this week, Tom, than we have been in previous weeks. Right, let's get into your thoughts that we posted midweek to the socials. Corey TJ says 3-1 to the Reds, Ekatike to score, as well as Van Dijk and McAllister. Colgan Josh says 3-1 to the Reds, a lot more confident in this game than last. Obviously, we went to the Etihad earlier in the season and we got dismantled, didn't we? Heading to across now, Max, our good mate here at Reds Down Under, says that Verge will have Haaland in his back pocket like usual. And then Wirtz and Hugo Ekatike will continue their love affair and goal-scoring form. But he's also mentioned that he has a sneaky feeling Semenyo, who was at times rumoured to come to Liverpool, will have a blinder and hurt us. And lastly, Dave Hughes has said, hopefully we have turned a corner and can build from our last couple of results. City have a poor away record, so hopefully his 3-1 prediction is correct. I know a lot of people that have predicted 3-1, Tom, and that's where our predictions will come in for the week. All right, you mentioned the other day how you haven't been really good with predictions on the Reds Down Under. And I know you said midweek with Wayne in the weekly show that you weren't going to give your prediction until today. So it's your time. Hit us with it. Who's taking out this one? Obviously the Reds, but what's the scoreline going to be?
I'm going to say 1-0 Salah penalty. I think it's going to be close. And my dad there, Dave Hughes, he said, hopefully we've turned a corner. And it does feel like that. I think there's been a couple of false dawns this season, but I think Liverpool have shown in the last couple of games good defensive performances, and we really need one in this football match. And I think it will be a game of moments, and that's why I've gone for Salah. Cheeky penalty, 1-0.
Love to see it. I am going to join you in going for the 1-0 win. I've got Hugo Ekatike to score, though. I don't think it will be convincing. I think, we know that Manchester City are currently in a battle for a title race, so they'll throw everything at us. But the Anfield crowd, I reckon, will get us home. So 1-0 for both of us. You're going for Salah to score a penalty and Ekatike for me. So let's hope our predictions are right. But Tom, that wraps up Countdown to Kickoff. Thank you very much for coming on, and hopefully we can shock Manchester City and maybe lend Arsenal that title.
Mate, it'd be an interesting one. It'd be an interesting one if we do hand Arsenal the title. But look, we'll get into it on the weekly show next Tuesday. And as long as Liverpool win the football match, I don't really care about much else. That's the most important thing.
That's all that matters, isn't it? Well, thank you, everyone, for watching Countdown to Kickoff. Be sure to check out the weekly show, which comes out next week. And as always, up the Reds.
Up the Reds.
We are the Reds Down Under, and this is our podcast.